Welcome to No Stage, Just a Chair. I'm Brian, and this is me trying to figure things out without pretending I already know how. If I sound foolish, that means it's working. Music sounds a little 80s? Good. I was basically raised on synths and questionable hair choices. And if any of this sounds familiar, pull up a chair. I have a good friend, his name's Corey. And Corey is really funny, and I've known him for a while, and we like to drink coffee. I don't get to see him nearly enough, but he was one of the first people that I heard use this phrase that I've kind of adopted from him. I associate it with him. Other people say it. It's not an uncommon phrase, but in my mind, it will always be attributed to Corey. And I should probably tag him in this so that he can get a laugh out of it. Corey had this phrase that he loved to use as kind of a rudder statement for how he did business. He's an entrepreneur for years and years. And he said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And what was kind of interesting about it is that I think about a lot of things as like this collective, collaborative idea. But the thing that's been really good for me as a person is to be reminded that there are moments that we do things alone. There are moments and times and seasons where the value and priority is to go fast. There are also moments and times where fast isn't the priority. It's about going far and doing it really well. So if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. A couple of years ago, my business partner and I were working. We had a project that kind of came in, and the client had been working with another agency, and that other agency had dropped the ball. They'd messed things up. They'd messed things up to the extent that the client was in a time crunch. There's a lot of things to do. And for the sake of this story, I will just make it very simple. They had about 90 hours of work that needed to get done, and they needed to get that 90 hours of work done in like 3 weeks. So my business partner and I, we looked at it and we figured out that I'm going to take these responsibilities. I'm going to work on these deliverables and all these details and all this stuff, all of the documentation and all the strategy. And she was going to make sure, my business partner was going to make sure that the agreements were in place, all the infrastructure is in place, all the operational stuff is in place. All these things are done and buttoned up. So I've got my part, she's got her part. And in order for us to get this pretty heavy lift pretty quickly done, that's how we had to do it. Otherwise, it just wasn't going to happen. And what was kind of interesting about it is we got into the work, and honestly, what I got to do it was stuff that I really loved doing. And the 90 hours didn't feel like that. It didn't feel hard. It actually felt pretty good. It was fun. It was enjoyable. And all of a sudden we blinked and it's done. It's in the can. All the work is done. And I can remember going to my partner and saying and apologizing to her, because I was like, hey, I feel like you had to do all of this. You had to do all this logistics and all this like contracts and agreements and operations and all the logistics. And I feel like I need to apologize because I got to do all the stuff that I thought was really fun. And you had to do all the stuff that I looked at with dread. And she laughed and said, I felt like I needed to apologize to you because she said I was doing all this stuff that I could do and I could knock it out and it was natural. And you're over here doing all this like heavy lifting and all this work. And we just both kind of laughed at each other because in the moment we realized that this was a pretty great partnership because we both felt like we got the good end of the deal. And I think it was funny because what echoed in my head after that was that idea from Corey of if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And In this particular moment, we actually went fast and together, and it worked. And it worked because we realized that the shared pressure revealed capacity that we couldn't have possibly accessed alone. And the reality also was that these were things that I could operate quickly on my own, not having to rely on a lot of, I'm not, in this world, I'm living on my own. And in this world, she was living on her own. And we had defined what that crossover point was, the linchpin that connected them together so that we could both do our things quickly. And it worked. And it was a pretty big aha moment for me. It may not sound like that big of a moment to those of you listening, because as I'm retelling it, I'm like, maybe this is pretty obvious and pretty commonplace. But for me, that was a big aha. It's me getting into this channel that I can do naturally and quickly and well, and her getting into this channel that she could do naturally and quickly and well. And then all of a sudden, each of those complementary skill sets supercharged each other. And it reminded me, even going farther back, I've talked about this in a few episodes. I ran a event called H&H. It was 50,000 people a month. That, huge food truck festival happened here in Oklahoma City. And again, one of the things that we had to do during that time was I had to find an assistant, somebody that could work with me to help pull this all off, because it had gotten to be too big of a job for any one person. I needed somebody that could come in there and do this. And in the beginning, we couldn't find the right person, because who kept coming in? They kept coming in with this expectation of they were trying to reproduce me. They were trying to be a clone of me rather than a complement to me. So I created a job description. And that job description is really simple and maybe a little bit borderline offensive. But the job description, the cornerstone of that job description was I need somebody that will bring me things to say no to. And that may sound kind of arrogant. It wasn't arrogant, because the idea of it was, I want people that will bring me things that I want somebody that will bring me things I haven't thought about. And in the beginning, they're not going to know the DNA of the organization as well as I do. They're not going to know the things that we've done and the things we've tried and the ways that we have succeeded and failed. They will not know all the DNA, but if in the beginning they will bring their point of view, and they know from the outset, bring me things to say no to. I can't work with somebody that that they're going to get hurt by my nose. I can't work with somebody that expects me to say yes to even most of the things that they're asking for, because the reality is, in the beginning, they're not going to get that. But I worked with this a woman her name is Stephanie, and she's become a dear friend of mine. To this day, we have coffee every other month and just catch up and see how she's doing. She's an amazing human being. But in the beginning, the agenda was, bring me things to say no to. And in the beginning, it was like, here's an idea, and I could go, no, or let's adjust it, or let's do these things. And in the first month, 2 months, there was a lot of no's. And then we got into month 3, and all of a sudden there got to be more and more yeses, and more and more yeses, and more and more yeses, because trust is built through repetition, not just intensity. She was able to learn, again, using some of my language that I keep coming back to. She started to identify that thin red line that connected all of the yeses. And she started making decisions based on those yeses, based on the commonalities, based on the things that we needed, and based on the things that were, frankly, part of our DNA. They were part of our DNA. And she started naturally gravitating towards those things that just made sense. And yeses became more and more common. And all of a sudden, we built this collaborative relationship where we were able to do so much more and go so much further because repetition had built that trust. Trust isn't instant. Trust doesn't arrive when we feel like it's supposed to. But it's born in that consistency. I know who's going to show up. I know who she is. And she knows who's going to show up. She knows who I am. She knows who we are collectively. And we know what we're going after. It's that it's that human realization of what it is that we're doing. Another example. I've talking. All of a sudden, I don't even know what words are. Talked so many times about my kids, and I can remember when my oldest son was born, I felt absolutely incapable of anything. Like I felt ill equipped to be his dad. And for every parent that's listening to this, I really believe that you're probably nodding your head because you've had that same moment where you feel ill equipped to be a parent. You feel ill equipped to be dad or mom. And in the middle of feeling ill equipped, in the middle of feeling unable to do all of those things, I can remember walking into Target one day, of all places, Target, and putting my son in the little buggy. And he was not happy about being in the buggy because he's 18 months old. He wants to walk. And at that point, he's walking so slowly that we're not going to get anything done. We're not going to get anywhere. And we got to get in and out. And I put him in the buggy and he flips out. And when he flipped out, the insecure dad just wanted him to be quiet. The insecure dad is trying to figure out how to not make a spectacle of himself and how to not look like I was ill equipped and I wanted to make sure that nobody around me thought that I was a bad dad. And I had this like bolt from the blue that hit me because I looked at him and I saw his face shaped like mine and his eyes blue like mine and his hair blonde like mine. And his long legs like mine and his long arms like mine and his big hands like mine. And I saw all these things that were like mine. And I had this realization in my heart and in my soul and on my insides that said that that child is 50% me. And that child is not 50% of anyone else in this building. And there's no one in this building that is more prepared to discern what it is that he really needs in this moment than his parents. Not just about what he wants, but what he needs. No one here. So in that moment, this thing on some level snapped. And the expectations that I had of everybody else judging me for not being a good enough dad or not being prepared or not knowing what to do or them second guessing myself, that broke because I realized that I am uniquely built, wired, and set up in order to be the most likely as his parent to discern what it is that he needs. And all of a sudden, something happened in my heart. This confidence was born in that moment where I was kind of done with looking over my shoulder at what everybody else might be judging me for. Because I have history with this child. I have 18 months. It was only 18 months, but it was a lot of nights of 2 o'clock in the morning with him crying and screaming and being angry, and a lot of changed diapers and a lot of skinned knees and a lot of everything else that goes into it. And all of those moments and all those experiences and all those things all contributed to that moment of not just the genetics of being half of who he is genetically, but also having all of these shared experiences that all go into this. And all of a sudden I had this realization again of that we are going far together. Time reveals who you are becoming long before you believe it. And in that moment, the light came on and I believed it. And what I want to leave you with are these three maybe overly simplified thoughts, but I think that they matter. I want to leave you with these three thoughts. Remember the framework of this conversation? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. As we're walking through alone and together, as we're walking through fast and far, as we're walking through these things, both of them have tipping points. That's the point of that statement. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And here's the thing that I want us to look at in this moment. Where is that tipping point? Where's the tipping point of fast and far? Where's the tipping point of alone and together? Where's the moment that we have to look at it and go, this is the moment to go fast. This is the moment to go far. This is the moment that I have things that I have to do on my own. And this is the moment where I have to rely on somebody else to bring me things to say no to take care of the details that I can't take care of. This is that tipping point. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a framework. Alone sharpens identity. Alone sharpens identity. It helps us to know who we are. And the response to that identity often drives us into the together portion. It drives us into the together portion because if we know who we are on our own, then we are much more able, much more ready, much more prepared, much more viable for operating in a collaborative setting because we know who we are. The second thing, together shapes character. Together shapes character. Alone sharpens identity. This is who you are. Together shapes character. Will you follow through on that person that you said that you are? Identity. Will you follow through on that? Once you said that out loud, once you've committed to that, once you've been that, that's when the character piece is fleshed out. Because together shapes character. The third thing, and I may be wrong about this one, but in my experience, most turning points are ordinary, not dramatic. Most of those turning points have arrived at Target. Those turning points have arrived at the dairy section of the grocery store. Some of those turning points might arrive standing in line at the donut shop. often those turning points are ordinary, not dramatic. So I think as a result of that, those two questions and those pieces where we go, is this the time for fast and alone? Is this the time for far and together? Is this about identity? Is this about character? Let's have those conversations and those thoughts running in the background. Let's do the work that we need to do on our insides. Let's do the things that we need to do. Let's be present in all these things. And whenever we do that, then we move between those seasons a lot more naturally. Does that make sense? Because the best way to discern between the two is simply by paying attention. Are you willing to ask? Which should I be now? Which should I be in this situation? Which should I be in this moment? Which should I be in this job? Which should I be in this relationship? Which should I be in all these things? Which serves this best? If we spend some time asking ourselves that question, then I think that we're more likely to choose well. So in this season of your life, in this season of your choices, in this season of whether it's difficulties or celebrations, which is it that you need more of right now? Ask yourself the question. Which do you need more of right now? Do you need identity? Do you need character? Do you need alone? Do you need together? Do you need far? Do you need fast? I wish I could give you a better answer to these questions. I wish I could make it even clearer, because I feel like even for myself that I'm still murky on what that line is and what the ask is. But I know that it is better if I'm at least asking those two things. Is this about going far? Is this about going fast? Is this about alone, or is this about together? So I'm going to leave it at that. And this is where I say it messy, before you assume that it was tidy all along. See you next week.